Hey.
Good evening.
Trying to work out the
Woo.
controls, and it was like I started. I would go live, and I forgot to put up the intro. I was like,
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, okay, smile.
oh my god.
I saw that. Not a problem.
Oh, okay, our conversations
Times are
take us everywhere.
strange now. We have technology and sequences and all that are all a little off. It's temporary, but it's
Oh,
crazy.
and you know me, I'm always a little off.
It's all good. Being a
Yeah.
little off of center helps you see the bigger picture. Yeah, I'll take that any day.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true. That's true.
absolutely. So, welcome to the Eyes of Indigo weekly broadcast. Well, it is a broadcast podcast. I am Margot Ross Sears. This is Iris Carter, and we are your co-host for the sleigh ride, discussing weird things in a rational way. Thank you for coming to play with us tonight.
I had to bring that up.
Absolutely. I love our little bluebird weirdo guy. He's awesome. He's a good toy. And hello and welcome to our regular listeners and viewers that join us for the show. And if you are new to the channel, welcome to the show. We are super glad you're here. If you or anybody like you that wants to know, why does Iris and Margot do this? What is their origin story? Ooh, hey, yeah, we got to do an origin story. And I actually kind of have one. Go back. YouTube is the easiest way to find it. And look at the very first episode, the prequel, and you will see a short telling of our credentials and background that led us to this project. Yeah.
I was kind of excited. I noticed the other day I was on YouTube to upload the thing for this show, and noticed that we've had probably around four. I can't remember the exact number. Hundreds of people have watched the prequel.
Oh,
Hundreds.
cool.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's making the rounds.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So
Very
they're
cool.
finding it, and that's always a good thing to know. Yeah, and if you're here, do say hello. We can't always tell when, you know, the studio that we use doesn't always register the viewers,
The
so we don't.
live viewers, yeah.
Yeah, so
If you are on the
but
air with us,
we're getting recorded viewers, viewers of the recordings too, so that's a good thing.
that's
Yeah.
cool. If
Yeah.
you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, please chat or comment. Type in the chat, type in the comment. Feel free to respond. Ask us questions. We strongly encourage that. Bring us your view. You can even contradict us if you feel like it. And we're happy to include you in our discussion. We will read your questions and comments out loud so that people that listen to this just on audio can still follow along.
Yeah.
And the opposite platform can also know what your question was. So please participate, and in the very least, type the word hello, type hi, type go blow your nose. Whatever is pertinent and meaningful to you in this time of the great pollen coming of the trees. Blowing your nose is actually pretty pertinent. Holy cow. Iris and I live about 4 hours apart. It is green tree, green dust city around here. How about you guys?
Pretty much, although we had a really good rain today, so but I noticed like all the pear trees, you know, those white pear
Bradford
that
pears.
people aren't supposed to plant. Well, not Brad. I don't. They're
Bradfords are the white
I don't think they
blooming.
grow fruit, but
They're just called a Bradford pear.
Okay.
I think it's because of the shape of the tree, not because of the fruit.
Did you know those are not indigenous to our area, and they say really you shouldn't plant them, which I thought was interesting. But they're busting out everywhere, so and that's a sure sign that the pollen's heavy.
Yeah, and pine trees around here do that heavy too. But there's tree spooge everywhere. trees are getting their jollies left and freaking right. It's awesome.
All the plants are having sex. It's
All the
ridiculous.
plants are having sex. It is. They're procreating out the wazoos. Whatever that is on a plant.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're happy. So the animals will start doing that soon. But that go for February 2, Phil, whatever. He was completely wrong. It was
Well, he
six
was
more
right
weeks till
somewhere in the world,
winter.
I think.
He was right, maybe in 10 square feet somewhere in the Antarctic or something. But it's been springtime coming on, 60s and 70s in this area since February. Rarely, at night it'd go down to 20s and 30s sometimes. But the
Yeah.
daytimes are, wow, this planet is shifting big time,
It's
big time right
crazy.
now.
Yeah.
Lots going on energetically as well as humanly. Yeah,
So
absolutely. So, Iris, you had an epiphany for tonight's
tonight
topic and discussion, and I'm
we're
going
gonna
to follow you down this rabbit hole. Woo-hoo!
Whee! So the write up that I did for it was universal approach. Recognizing that we are part of something bigger than ourselves is not a foreign concept for many. Join us as we stretch the concept and flip the discussion to explore the fluidity of that relationship and how we are a benefit to the something bigger. And I will explain that a little bit more. Um,
Cool.
because my brain works weird sometimes, but I had seen a couple of posts that got me to thinking, and this was one. And this guy is walking through space on some sort of like,
Catwalk out,
yeah,
out, out into the stars. Yeah.
yeah. And it says, what fascinates me is that hardly anyone is wondering what we're actually doing on this planet. Most accepted the work, eat, entertainment, sleep cycle as life and have no desire for a deeper understanding of our purpose in the universe. And there are people that just kind of fall into the flow and don't really concern themselves with that.
They
Um,
conform.
yeah, they conform and just go with the flow. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
conformity. And so that was one school of thought, and then I saw this, and it's
Yeah.
and this it looks like a troll type man, but he's labeled as the universe, and he's underground, and he's sticking
Or he's
his
in another
fingers.
dimension. He's actually in another dimension.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sticking his fingers through. And so you've got these like five little figures above him that you can't see, that
Below.
the fingers don't see that they belong to the universe, right?
Right.
And it's the universe pretending to be individuals, and then you are the
One of the
little
fingers.
fingers. Yeah. And that, I'm going to I'll leave it up for just a minute. That really sparked me in a different way, because I think, you've got people that don't realize that
Mhm,
they're part of something bigger. We have the
mhm.
people that worship God is there, we're down here. You got people that don't believe, and all that stuff. Then you have people that go, I know I'm part of something bigger. Okay. But then some of those people feel like they're, dust in the wind, Kansas song, type thing, or that, okay, if we're all dust, particles of dust from the Big Bang and all that stuff, then, you know, I'm just one little piece. What do I, yeah, I belong, but, what does that really mean? Because I'm on Earth and what can I do? Right. And then I realized, what if, when I was looking at this, the epiphany I had was, you've got the all that is, or the universe, so to speak. And the universe is learning about all its pieces.
Yeah.
So so the little fingers that are showing up
Hmm.
are like some of its pieces. If we can imagine that as the
Sure.
little fingers.
Representation of
And
it. Sure.
yeah, and that as individuals, we are very important to the big picture
Hmm.
because we are
Hmm.
actually, rather than just being a part of it, we have a direct purpose because what we do feeds the rest of the body of the universe. And I think I would like to think that that is something that maybe other people might get more out of rather than just being, oh yes, I'm at one with the universe, and and
There's even
and
more to it than that, right?
yeah, but it's kind of flipping it around where if you realize that every individual plays an important part, because then when you're connected to the universe, you're connected to everything else. And that ripple effect, I mean, we've talked about the ripple effect on here before,
Another
how,
episode, right?
yeah, and a good mood can light up a whole room, and a sour mood can, and that doing that, um, staying positive and sharing that energy
Fake it
has
till
a
you
ripple
make it
effect.
is
Yeah,
a credible statement, right?
right. But when you realize if you can take it another step and go, it's not just cause and effect, and it's not just
There's more to. There's more.
you
There's
were
always
put
more.
here. You were put here for a reason. And your experience is a vital part of the overall education of the entire universe. And that we learn from each other, we learn from the universe, we have access to other people's experiences. If we're connected to the universe, we as individuals can connect to that
Hmm.
and recognize and have more empathy for other people because we can recognize,
Compassion and empathy. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's another way to
and
tap
we can
tap it.
feed into that, and we can gain. It's a very fluid
Yes.
relationship.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was coming at and really kind of wanted to explore that more. So, and I know kind of just really threw some stuff up and that sort of thing. But it, it it was like another layer, another epiphany, and I wanted to share that concept and dredge it out a little bit more.
Certainly.
So,
Excellent.
Any thoughts on your side after all that?
Yeah. I completely. My brain completely grabbed onto the segment of what you said about people are not aware of how much what they do, think, feel contributes, which are all similes in this, or synonyms. They're all synonyms in that sentence, in that context, um, to the evolution of the universe, not just themselves, and therefore the evolution of the people immediately around them, and the next layer, and the next layer. In other words, the ripple effect. People forget about that ripple effect, but they forget not only is the ripple effect, what is the ripple actually doing? Mechanically doing. That's also important. Not the fact that it exists, but what's it actually doing as it exists. Okay. So,
Oh, some people right over.
yeah, yeah, exactly. They need to get out of the way. They need to shit or get off the pot, swing or get off the porch. And that piece particularly jumped out at me as an intriguing investigation to be had.
Yeah.
So,
And also just to add to that,
yes.
another branch of that is we've touched on this in prior shows, but it bears repeating.
Mm-hmm.
When we a lot of times, like, I'll get what is called a download from creator or from the universe. Like, I'll have a belief that I get rid of, but I want to have an understanding, or I have a false belief that I need to correct my understanding of definite or whatever. So I get these downloads, and sometimes I have these certain beliefs because my ancestors believed it.
Mm.
And science has proven that genetically, your genes, your DNA can change in traumatic instances
Permanently.
permanently, and
And
that's carried on to
be inherited. Yeah.
right. And so that only brings to mind that whatever the other things can be transferred through DNA that we haven't yet discovered. Okay. But so when we get
All of
these
it.
yeah. And we
DNA is an Akashic record. It is the
yes,
record of everything.
you're
And
right. You're
science proved
right.
that, yeah, all DNA creates all living things, as far as we know it, which means there's a whole lot more that we don't know. So,
And
yeah,
there is so much crammed into those little spirals,
no such thing as junk DNA. That was a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and and so when we realize that we have a belief that comes from our ancestors, then
Like scarcity. Just for an example,
okay, because I'm not sure what that reference is.
a lack, scarcity. There
Oh,
isn't enough for
scarcity. Oh, yes.
scarcity.
I
Yeah,
thought
there's
you were
not
like,
enough for
I was
everybody,
thinking
so
like
we have
Sin City, Scarcity.
scarcity. All right, now we're getting into Monsters Inc. A very deep state show, yeah,
I didn't
movie.
see that movie.
Well, yeah. Now that I know what it used to be a favorite movie of mine until I realized what it was really about.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
But
a reveal, but
yeah.
yeah, no scarcity yeah, in terms of we have to fight to get ours, and competition is the only way to survive. That's
Right.
a belief in scarcity. Yeah,
Right. And so, or if you had grandparents that lived through the depression and they hoarded everything,
that's a
and you're
scarcity
hoarding
reaction
everything,
too.
that's yeah. And so
Yeah,
sometimes and that takes a little bit of digging and that sort of thing to figure that out. But once you do,
yeah.
and you go, okay, I don't need this belief anymore, and I want to understand and know that I can be safe, with what I have and have abundance and blah 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 blah. You can also ask that those beliefs be sent, or those teachings be sent to your ancestors. And your ancestors get it. And I mean, I have done
Ripple it
that.
backwards and it'll ripple forward. Yeah.
Yes. And I have watched my ancestors go, oh, what are you doing? And yeah, send it to them, and they get it, and they go, oh, wow, this is awesome. And it's
Nobody was
amazing.
there to teach them while they were alive, so they are assimilating it afterwards from you, a descendant. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And so again, look how that ripple effect, and it boosts the knowledge of the universe, and
Raises the vibration everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that, adding that to the thing about what you were saying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, no, that's why I was hoping you would run with it. You did fine. Yeah, you did fine. Yeah, ancestral beliefs. I've had the honor of participating in some ancestral healing ceremonies that came out of the African continent traditions
Mm.
with a man named La. And it was a 24-hour ceremony. It was
Whoa.
overnight. You had to stay awake the whole time. And we all sat around a fire pit all night long and fed Cheetos to the fox that kept visiting in the shadows. Oh, we had fun. We cut up. We had there was a little bit of drink, not a lot, but a little bit, and we'd do a ceremony and decompress and process and talk about it. and eat and laugh. And maybe an hour or two would pass and we'd do another ceremony. And if somebody started feeling sleepy, then it would be, okay, everybody on your feet and da 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 da, and run
Yeah.
and dance and play some music. And it was in the summertime, so we were outside around this on this nice brick patio around a fire pit at a nice house that had woods behind us and obviously a fox. And the owners of the house were participating. And
Good thing that y'all didn't just camp out in somebody's backyard without them knowing.
absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, here's a good place for a fire pit. Yeah, fire! I'll bring fire!
I bring fire to your backyard. and, and we did have that kind of fun. Okay, the kind of fun you're doing right now, that's what we did. Yep. And part of the ceremony involves some live chickens. And
oh, no, good. They stayed alive, didn't they? Oh.
no.
Oh.
It was in ceremony. It was with intention, with the animals' permission and all kinds of stuff. But the smell of the chickens, even while they were alive, attracted the fox. So the fox came closer and closer. So over the hours, eventually we'd catch ghosty glimpses of him moving in the edges of the trees. There was a little garden wall about 2 feet tall behind us on the edge of the patio. And eventually the owner said to the person sitting next to me, so-and-so, don't move. The fox is right behind you. I can see him. Because, he was that person was 10 feet away on the other side of the fire. The fox was. And so we decided so we were all quiet and giggling and whatever. And you could hear crunch, crackle, crunch, crunch, crackle as he walked on the leaves and sticks and on the side. And they said, okay, he's gone. So we went and put Cheetos on the top of that wall. We're like, yeah, he'll eat cheese, he'll eat salt. Let's give it a shot. Why not? It's not going to hurt him.
That's your cheetah fox.
And about 45 minutes later, he said, oh, he's there. Hold still. And you heard. Like you could hear him chewing on the cheetah, crunching and knacking on this right behind you. And it was just so hard not to bust out laughing. We were just bending over, just cracking up, trying to be quiet and let him have his Cheetos.
Like, did he go back and his mom asked him why he had orange hands?
Well, for you got like crack cocaine orange all over your face.
Oh, Mom, they were good.
Grind them up, suck them in. But besides that, we did some ancestral healing ceremonies, and it was real interesting. He had us build altars. We precog, we brought photos and items and so on of specific, and we channeled and we intuited specific ancestors that we knew we were going to deal with that night. This was all, very orchestrated. And there was a couple of paths out into the woods, and earlier when the sun was up, before the sun went down, we picked out altar spots on the ground at the base of certain trees that we felt drawn to. There was like 6 of us that were doing it. And you put your rocks and you put your picture, and if your relatives were drinkers, you put out your little Dixie cup of booze or beer or water or tea, Earl Grey tea, or whatever it is that they liked, other foods, and you built an ancestral altar to honor them. And then sometime and bless it and call them in and tell them you're welcome. This is for you. You're welcome to be here. And then sometime during the night when you felt called, you would get up and leave the group and walk into the woods with a flashlight. Walk into the woods. It was only maybe 20, 30 feet into the woods. It wasn't huge. And go to your altar and have a sit down, come Jesus talk with your ancestors about, look, you need to figure this out, that out, whatever. And then that's part of the serious part of the discussions of what we were having is we were talking about, what do you want to talk to your ancestors about? Because, what happens at the fire stays at the fire. You don't share that. And we would help each other process what it is we wanted to help our ancestors on and what we wanted our ancestors to help us on. In other words, why are you here? What do you want to talk about? And at some point when spirit called you, you would get up and leave and go and do the work and tell your ancestors, look, this is what we need to do. This is what I'm giving you. This is what we need to release, or whatever the conversation needed to be. And for some people, that happened. For some people with because their ancestors weren't listening, and they got, God damn it. And we were like, La, is that okay? Or should we go in there? And La was like, no, it is okay. Let him do it. Let him have his process. We'll talk about it when he comes back. Because most people went in there and quietly sat at their altar in meditation and said loving, wonderful, profound things quietly, and then came back and debriefed and cried. Well, he was out in the yard, out in the woods back there, which was kind of creepy in the middle of the night. And he came back, he was like, sorry, y'all, had to be done. We're like, hoorah, high five. And his ancestors were resisting. They weren't listening. They weren't taking him seriously. And so he got energetically huge and big and said, God damn it, listen to me. And they were like, ooh. And we were like, did it work? And he said, oh, yeah. He said, I scared him. He said, I scared him. He said, I wasn't trying to scare him because he's a nice guy. Otherwise, he said, I wasn't trying to scare him, but Spirit showed me, all right, time to get really big and really loud. And so I did. And we were like, good for you, buddy. And it was fascinating. And it took 24 hours. And the next morning we were all walking zombies, but we were elated. It was really, really cool. Yeah. We all crashed and slept for another 12 hours.
Well, and the nice thing is when you heal the ancestors or when you give them teachings, then it helps your future generations because that work has already been done. And I've known
both ways.
Yeah, and I've known people that have watched their own children, like adult children who were having issues, and they worked on themselves and the ancestors, and then watched things clear up for the kids. And it was like, oh my God, I see exactly how those changes affect. So that's really kind of
absolutely cool. It's all about rewriting, recreating, or releasing belief systems. Because that writes our DNA, which can instantly be changed by the power of intention, which science is proving more and more every day. Yeah.
Well, and then it's not a far jump to believe, which I already know, that physically your DNA can be changed so that if I mean it is physically changing when we're doing that kind of work, but I mean, like if you've got an ailment or something or some sort of disease that is genetic, that can be repaired and changed. And and people I've seen and heard of people having miraculous healings from that.
Most people have heard the reverse of that. They've heard stories of adopted people, their family that they're adopted into, that they are genetically not related to, adoptions outside of your own family. That the adopting parents and family have a genetic disposition for a particular disease, and their adopted kids get the disease too, just like their
if they had a
blood cousins. If they had a genetic, they had a biological child and an adopted child. Well, and there's also cousins, brothers and sisters having babies, not together, but aunts and uncles.
You were clarifying.
Cousins, first cousins also having babies. And they've even done research where they went in and checked out the genetics, and the person, the adopted person who manifested the disease didn't even have the DNA structure for the disease, but they still manifested it. because of the belief system in that family, that's what we do. You know,
Yeah.
we all get lupus, or we all get cancer, or whatever it is that they think, or
And a
diabetes.
lot of that is from adopting those fears.
Yes. And so the reverse is possible too. You can also not do that.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's interesting, how they talk about people who have been married for a long time start looking alike,
Yeah.
dogs and people that look alike, those
Yeah.
kinds of things. And
Friends start looking alike all the time. Yeah. Yeah. The older you get, the more you look like sisters with your closest friends.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
hmm Yeah. And
So
the ripple, yeah, that ripple effect affects our genetics and lots of physical ways. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So, where else did you, what other light bulbs have come along on this thread for you?
I think rec well, and something actually this kind of goes right into something we were talking about before we came on air is the multidimensional selves.
Ooh. Oh, yeah. 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 Ooh. Holographic. Holographic universe. If it happens at one level, it's also going to have a mirror reaction and effect. Well, effect, not reaction. A mirror effect on another level in the universe. Good catch on the hologram. Good job, Iris. Very cool.
Yeah.
Hang on. Here we go.
Women. No, but and if we recognize that we are multidimensional, and so what
Yeah.
I do here affects somebody there, myself somewhere else. I got
Yes.
more than one of me to take care
Yeah, I was
of.
going to say back up and let's explain a multidimensional self
Okay.
for a second. You know what it go.
Okay.
Keep talking.
um, there are one of the things this comes from is the quantum physics where you're doing something and you make a decision, and but the decision you didn't make continues on another timeline and you might start a new one. So you have these different timelines.
To
You also
exemplify it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they can branch off, and so there'll be multiple yous and multiple at the same time.
Right.
And then there's also multi-dimensional in like parallel universes,
Yes.
and
Yes.
or on other planets. There can be, you're here, and then there's someone like you in another time and space
Yeah.
area,
Another
and there
aspect
can
of
be
you.
one up there. So there's,
There's
you know
infinite use. Yeah.
right. And my understanding is when you talk about your soul is like above your higher self, or could be your higher. It's either adjacent or the same,
That's
depending
about
on.
how I understand it. Yeah, they're relative to each other, but there is a difference. Yeah.
And so your soul, a part of that is in you, and your soul is divided up into all these multidimensional selves of
hmm
yours.
Yes, that's actually the divided part. Right. Your
Yeah,
soul. Your soul.
and but the connection is the core soul. But
Right. Right.
so you are connected to these multi selves, and of course then you're connected to the whole universe because of
As well.
as well, because your soul is part of all that.
Right.
So so if you're totally confused, just ask us a question.
Yes.
but but um so maybe, and if you've never seen the movie Another Earth,
Yeah.
find it, watch it.
Yeah, that's a
That
good
is
one.
phenomenal, and it's one way of seeing how this works. Um but
Yeah, it's a good call. Yeah.
yeah, but the I love that movie. Um but you might have you might be different on these different levels,
Of course you are. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's not like it's the same person doing the same
No.
things.
Different experiences, different choices, different results. Yeah.
And I have communicated with other selves in different ways. And like I know somebody who actually heard her own voice
Mm.
say, something like, I need help or something like that. And she was like, who that was me, but it wasn't me, And she meditated and figured out it was herself in another dimension that needed assistance, and she gave her spiritual assistance to help her through whatever. So you can make those connections. I mean, it is fascinating when you realize you are multifaceted.
You're
Whoo.
never alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're herd instinct animals. We even create our own herds
Yes.
on an energetic level. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, the ripple effect is going to go out that way as well, not just through ancestry. I would dare say call that a lateral move outward on your energetic self.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ripple goes out that way. We're connected that way to all those beings, and all those beings, other aspects of self, and each one of them is infinitely connected to the universe. Plus the center soul up the top, it's also infinitely connected to the universe like a big old spider web. My
Hmm.
point being, you have billions more, but you have more than one connection to the rest of the universe, which means you can tap into almost any aspect. And maybe almost is not a good qualifier. You can actually tap into any aspect of the universe that you like if
And
you
remember,
are aware.
the universe is tapping into you,
Yes,
which
you
that's that flip.
you are the universe. You're that powerful. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can
And
constantly tap into that. Yeah.
and I think it's, people tend to limit themselves or think that,
Mm,
well, it's just little old me, and what, there is so much more that we don't realize or don't understand or don't recognize, and that you have access to,
yeah.
because it is a divine right to have
Right.
access to this stuff,
All
and
the
it's your
time
beliefs that keep you from accessing it.
from actually accessing it. Beliefs created by society, which is based on um, yin yang reactions to karma and
Hmm.
other people's experiences that they're trying to share with you for either helpful or nefarious reasons. Doesn't matter. It changes and shapes your belief system. And the conundrum there that becomes the crux of the social argument now of who's awake and who's asleep, who's aware and who's not, who's being a a conspiracy theorist, and who's being a conspiracy researcher, and who's being a sheeple, and who's being an informed sheeple, and all these other labels you can give. All of those are you. We're all plugged into those infinitely, and it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you're taught to understand and believe, it all came from somewhere else because of all those infinite connections everywhere. So the challenge becomes create your own beliefs, create your own ripples.
Well,
Start letting go of karma and expectation to meet those karmas. You don't have to. Yeah.
and actually, you don't have to create new beliefs. You just have to let the old ones get out of the way.
So,
because
okay, philosophical discussion. What come if you release a belief, what comes in behind it? Because nature abhors a vacuum. So I'm
what
assuming there's a
you
vacuum.
replace those beliefs
With what?
with creator's understanding or universal understanding, or there's several different things that you can do. One is
Okay.
a lot of beliefs come from misunderstanding vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
So you might think that pain is one thing, the universe, creator, God, whatever, has a different definition.
Mm-hmm.
Or love,
Mm-hmm. Mm,
or
mm.
sorrow, or joy. And it was some of those simple words like joy, happiness, abundance, you
And
know,
multiple meanings.
have multiple meanings
Yeah.
and multiple interpretations.
Right.
And so when you ask for creator's definition and that your definition be the same as creators, and that
Mm,
you know how to use that definition,
good clarity.
and that like I know, like I've had the downloads before of, I uh please, creator, please give me the definition of happiness and let my definition be the same. And I want creator's truth, understanding, discernment on
Good
that
one.
word. I know what
Good
it
one.
feels like to experience happiness. I know the feeling of what it feels like to experience happiness.
Very crucial to humans.
Those kinds of things. And you get these downloads, and all of a sudden, and it's like you might not consciously understand what they mean, but you feel the changes. And then suddenly,
Which
when
is where
you're
it's important.
using it in your daily language, it takes on a whole new
New
meaning.
meaning.
And so it doesn't matter that, well, what is God's definition? What is it? Okay, well, it means da da da. It's not like Webster's. You can, you can't.
Not quite that cut and dry. Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
when you have that in your definition, your definition is the same as creators, it clarifies and opens that gateway to have the understanding and the passing back and forth, so that when you look for happiness, you know, that you're asking in a way that is in alignment with what Creator wants you to understand happiness to be.
The definition of what is creator.
The same
I,
thing.
exactly. Exactly. So, in terms of this conversation, we try to do a good job of defining our terminology so that newcomers and so on can follow along. And I know what you mean when you say creator, and I know what you mean relative to the practice of theta healing. Can you describe what is creator in this context, in this conversation, please?
Creator is another term for synonymous with God, the source, the
Infinite divine,
infinite divine, the total consciousness,
the ultimate higher power, highest power kind
the
of thing.
highest. Yeah, exactly. And so I
So,
just use creator. I've found that for me, in the process of my learnings and all, I'll use God if that's what makes other people comfortable.
sure.
But God has very religious
Oh,
connotations and
yeah.
symbolism,
And overtones and undertones. Yeah.
and I prefer not to associate with that word in my own speech because it misleads people in thinking they're going to think of their concept of God and not the
Some,
ultimate.
and
You
not
know,
a
it's
more,
it's not separate. It's
yeah,
all we're all.
a more omniscient, ubiquitous, yeah,
Yeah.
version of what they're thinking. Right.
Yeah. So that's why I say creator a lot. But then I'll try to, okay, creator, God, whatever you want to call it. That ultimate,
It's an
uh
invitation to throw in other words for it. Yeah.
right.
Cool. Cool.
And so once you get the words and the definition and that sort of thing, that helps. Then when you start looking at your beliefs and you realize that you constantly feel bad when you do something and you're like, you have some routine that you're doing, you go, why do I always do this? Why? Example, say you're a woman who's constantly in the same kind of bad relationship with guys.
All right.
You get these men that don't pay attention to you, or they're good at first, but then they, their noses in the TV and they're not hearing you, and then maybe they're cheating on you, and you're going, how come I end up with these same guys? We start
Sure.
off good and it turns bad. What is going on? Okay, so you do some digging and you find out that somewhere in the past, maybe your mom said, if you keep that up, you're never going to find a good guy. Or maybe your father did the same to your mother,
And modeled that
and
behavior.
you thought, oh, well, that's the way men are supposed to
Treat
treat
women.
women. So you look for that same kind of man, not realizing that you're perpetuating the same thing that your mother had to deal with, so to speak. And so once you realize, oh God, I don't want that belief anymore. I don't. That's not serving me, and it's not making me happy, and all this stuff. So you can ask creator to pull that belief, and I have literally felt, like, from the top of my head, felt things be
Oh.
pulled out. I mean, it is really an amazing feeling.
Mm.
And replace it
Mm.
with the knowledge
Mm.
that you have uh the divine right to happiness and to a relationship that is compatible with your expectations, that you can manifest the type of relationship you want, that you can, you all these things that you can replace it with. And ultimately, if nothing else, when I'm working with somebody, I'll have it replaced with creator's love and understanding,
Yeah.
and and just watch that pour
That's a
in and fill the gap.
wonderful phrase. Yeah.
Yeah, and because it's unconditional love, and it's in abundance. It never ends. The unconditional love. So you can replace that. Also, when I'm doing that kind of stuff, I make sure that before I pull beliefs, I'll verify that it is safe to pull that belief, because some people
Mm.
will hold on
Mm.
to it regardless, and you'll think it's gone, and it's just buried deeper. It's like a little worm,
It's
and
attached.
it gets
It's attached to something else. Yeah.
is attached to something else. And so you dig and you figure, okay, well, what else is going on here? And then sometimes you find out it's something going on with the ancestors. It's going on, with genetics. It's all this other stuff that you
All
can.
kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we do some digging and figure that out. And then once it's safe to let it go, it just poof. I mean, it just
Easily
goes.
let goes.
Yeah.
So you're describing in effect a lot of the main practices I'm hearing you describe of theta healing practices.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that are going to want to know more. Is there a website that they can learn more about what is theta healing? Is there a
You can Theta
thetahealing.com or
Healing,
something?
is it .org or .com? I can't remember. Let me look up real
What's the
quick.
name of the lady that founded it that's still around? Stibe?
Vienna Stibel, Stibal, and
Vienna Stible.
Stibel.
So
And it's thetahealing.com, THETA, like beta, but theta with a TH,
yeah.
healing.com. And I know for a while you would look up Vienna's name. and this might have
Hmm.
been 10 years ago. You'd look up her name and you'd see all this good stuff, but you'd also see it peppered with, oh, she's fake, she's this, she's that, negative stuff. It was her family that she ticked off because they weren't,
In
they,
alignment
they,
with what she was doing.
right. And so they were trying to
Stop her.
just, and but I think a lot of that's faded now. But the only reason I
Probably
say that
has.
is if somebody sees that, just realize it's spammy crap and it's not
Absolutely.
true.
It's not genuine.
Yeah, because
Well,
I've
then
met the woman.
we're kind of rolling towards the end of the hour. So, in that case, if you are interested in a theta session with Iris,
Ooh,
you can, yeah, you can go to iriscarter.com. You can contact Iris through the email iris at iriscarter.com. And you can see some other offerings and teachings that she has, such as a book she has written and events that she will speak at. The next one is you're speaking at is May 7th.
yes, I
Could
want
you
to.
tell us a little more about the Empowerment Summit that you're
Yes,
going
I
to?
can. I did think to bring this in. So let me bring this
Yay.
full screen. And the Empowerment Summit is being held by Novus Dreams Incorporated. We've mentioned Janet Hosmer before, who started this
Hosting it.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is the holistic approaches to feeling better.
Yes.
And it'll be on May 7th on Saturday. There are seminars that start at 9 and run through until 4:30. So there's 6 speakers in all, and you can see it in person at the Hampton Inn Oceanfront at Myrtle Beach, or you can do it through Zoom
Live. Yeah.
live, or you can watch recordings later. And the tickets, if you get them before April 1st, are
Yes.
only $30 for the whole day of events.
Yes.
So go one, go all. It's up to you. After April 1st, it goes up to $39.
And you will be speaking on the power of belief.
Yes, which is kind of funny that we're here talking about some of that now. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of rolls right into it.
Right. And some of the other speakers today, today's chiropractor is evolved. There'll be Dr. Brian Brown from Family Wellness Center.
Yeah.
Past lives influence your now. And that's from an intuitive reader and a healing facilitator, Sandy Walter.
Hypnotherapist. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then co creating New You Carbon to Crystalline. And that's from Paige Hall. She's a crystal messenger and a cellular what?
Cellular regenesis
Oh,
specialist.
I thought that was an H. I couldn't see.
No
I was
worries.
like,
No
Genesis.
worries.
And
And
then
then
healing with
after,
love, compassion, and gratitude. That's Christine Pugh Gordon, and she's a shaman and Reiki master and energy clairvoyant. And then Meridian Enlightenment, clear blockages, and that's from
Tirsa.
Teresa
Tirsa.
Tirsa. And
Tirsa Wilder. Yeah.
so all of those are very worthwhile, and each of them lasts about an hour and 15 minutes, or an hour.
No, about
They're an
45,
hour.
45 to an hour. Yeah, 45
Okay.
to an hour each, usually an hour. Yeah.
And then they have a short break in between.
Between,
So
yeah. Body break, snacks. If you're there in person, they feed you. You get lunch if you're there in person as well, if you're there the whole day. And you can also get the recording later and review it at your leisure from off of the Zoom. So Janet and her husband Chet is the tech god behind all that good event. So that's the next time that I know about Iris being in public. Iris also does public events for her day job at a community college.
yeah, we've
So,
got a job fair if anybody's looking for a job. Oh, and there's 2 job fairs. I've got a friend that is uh he is well, he's phenomenal. His name is Joel Leonard. And if you Google him, he's been on presidential committees. He's a real go getter in creating maker spaces, and he started years ago. I met him through a video group where he would make videos for showing skilled workforce jobs. You know, what does a plumber do? What does a machine operator do?
It's
What do,
brilliant. Yeah, it's
yeah.
brilliant. Yeah.
And he started getting calls from companies in other countries. Come to us, come to us, you know. And so he was
Oh,
traveling all over the world. He ended up being on a presidential committee to advise on creating the workforce, because what they were seeing or have seen, and it's still coming, is there's going to be like 1.5 million jobs for people in the skilled workforce that are
yeah, the
not going
blue
to be
collar
fillable.
workforce is getting sparse, too
We
sparse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and because we have trained kids to learn technology and go to college, and nobody's teaching that it's okay to
how
be a plumber and an electrician and a
and
machine
build
operator.
houses and build highways and build infrastructure and build bridges that keep our nation alive.
There was a
Yeah,
kid in Rockingham County that was excellent with 3D printing, computer use, and some other things. And Joel connected that kid with somebody that hired him. That kid makes six figures and travels around the world now.
happy baby.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
very cool.
and so
Very
that's what
cool.
he's doing, is showing how much money these jobs you can make. You can go to college for 6, 8 years and not make as much money as you can make on these jobs, you know, because there's no
Absolutely.
guarantee. And so
Absolutely.
he's got a
Following
job
your
fair.
bliss. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an empower. It's an empower. No, that's your thing. If you want to know more, just email me, iris@iriscarter.com, and I can send you the information on that. It's April 7th.
She'll send you more information.
Yeah, it's that
Absolutely.
week. It's that week, and it's in Winston. Then our job fair at Rockingham Community College is April the 13th. It's on a Wednesday. And we've got all
Contact
kinds of companies and stuff coming. So, yeah, I mean, the
Iris. Yeah,
workforce is
contact
hurting.
Iris if you'd like to participate in that. It's a little bit north of Guilford
Greensboro.
County. Yeah, Greensboro and so on. Yeah. I
Yeah,
wanted to
so,
share a little bit about what I'm doing as lately as well, if
hmm
you don't mind. I'm in the
please.
middle of building a Reiki 1 certification class here at the beach. All right,
Ooh.
Ocean Isle Beach area for in one weekend, a Saturday and a Sunday. And we're still pushing together the exact dates for this because it's a bit of a challenge for us to do something on the weekends at the beach, but there's been a demand. There's already 3 students. It'd be nice to have at least 2 more. We've got space for more than that. One of my friends has a beautiful hair salon upstairs, is the massage tables, and those rooms convert very nicely. Wonderful energy in that place. So, um, if you're interested in studying Reiki 1 with me and my husband, David Sears, please feel free to see more about what we're like. You can contact us directly through our website, indigoanswers.com. Indigoanswers.com. If you want to ask me questions directly, that's fine. Margot at indigoanswers.com. And you can see the textbooks, the Reiki textbooks that we wrote, that some of my friends helped edit, as well as David. And photography is all mine. You can see that on Indigo Answers. And if you're interested in getting married or having family portraits, you can see my work that I am starting to pick up as the weather's getting nice. That's also the other big thing that I'm doing now, is more and more family portraits and wedding shoots, and high school senior portraits, senior photos. That's also something that I do a lot of here in this area. I do travel, so feel free to check that out. That's also connected to indigoanswers.com. And
I'm going to
that
put
business
these
is known
links
as,
in our YouTube
yes,
description.
yes,
And also, you can find a lot of this on our Facebook page as
yes,
well. But I'll
absolutely.
I'll try to put that I know for sure I can get it in the YouTube description, and I think I can get it in
Absolutely.
Facebook without it getting lost.
So to tie back into what you were saying, I'll speak with David in November, I think, maybe September, at the Empowerment Summit that you're doing May 7th.
Ah,
Yeah, so we'll revisit that at the end of the year. So looking forward to that, very much
yeah,
so. And
yeah.
it's time for us to put it to bed. Yeah,
Yes. So
yeah,
thank you for coming. I've seen a couple of visitors come and go that I can tell, but
yeah.
like I said, if people don't say hello, we don't necessarily know they're there. But we greatly appreciate our people who tune in later and watch, as well as the people who are there in hiding in secret.
Absolutely. We feel you. We know you're there. Hi, Chris. Call her out. We
Oh,
love you
okay.
guys. We love you guys. Namaste and good night.
Good night.
Thank you for joining The Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com, licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details at www.facebook.com/Eyes of Indigo. Show is copyrighted 2022 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. All rights reserved.